Hello, everybody. This is the IOTA Shimmer Discord. We are here on the 13th of April, my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, mom. And we're here for the governance meeting. And as always, we just go with the flow and talk about the things that happened over the last week and that we have in planning. Um, I think one thing I wanted to bring up, and this is something related to the treasury that has come up a bit, and we also made a little poll around that topic. Let me just get into the correct channel to find it. Um, so there was so currently the treasury is only publishing grant applications that come in, basically from people that request funding from the Treasury once a grant has been granted. Yeah, so only basically positive applications that have been accepted to be paid out will be made public available for the community. Um, I remember the time when we talked about this here in the group and came to the decision to do that. And I'm I don't know, the reasons have been mostly that we kind of thought, okay, there might be a lot of spam potentially coming in, and then you could spam this thing and people would see a lot. And the other thing would be kind of to not make let's say, open public discussions about all those proposals before the committee had a chance to make up their own mind without being influenced from others. Yeah. So I think these were the two main reasons. In the end, then we said, okay, let's start like this and see where it goes. But now we have seen, I think, quite a lot of people on Twitter, also here in the channel in Discord, people asking about who has already applied and if they can have the information um, of those that have been declined and things like this. And so we made a little poll here in the governance channel or in the Discord. I think JD, you also did a poll on Twitter. Is this correct?
Let me check. I've done a few polls lately. Let me just double check that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the poll here in Discord was should all grant applications that arrive at the Treasury Committee website be visible and public to anyone? And the answers we had yes, all applications for grants should be public as soon as they arrive in the system. This has by far the highest amount of votes. It had 78% of the poll voters said yes. There's been 30 people. Second was yes, all applications should be public, but only after the committee has reviewed them and made a decision to fund or not to fund. So basically, yes, everything should be shown, but give the committee their day's time that they need to review an application before it gets published for everyone. And then it doesn't matter if it's declined or not, it's going to be shown. And then C was yes, all applications should be public, but declined ones only after a waiting period of 2 weeks. This received none and also no. So it's a clear vote here in the Discord, in the governance group. These are the ones that I tagged, that they would prefer that everything is directly public visible to the community, and so everybody sees also already what is the Treasury Committee currently already working on. Yeah. Did you find anything in Twitter, JD?
I did not. I don't think I did put a poll on that one.
Okay.
There definitely was a lot of requests.
Yeah.
I'm not on top of my game as much anymore now that I'm
Yeah. But
focused
that's
on other
also what
stuff.
I
But
guess. Yeah. So the majority of questions and opinions in Twitter seems also for me for people that would be happy to see everything directly. Yeah.
What I can do is I have the ability, so I have it set like when a grant comes in, it comes to me, and then I vet it and review it, check it for spam, and then it comes in automatically as lead program lead pending review,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, approved. So really, what I can set it to is it will only show grants that are lead approved. So if
Yeah.
someone puts in something spam,
Spam.
it's not going to show,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then on the and I think, you know, we have a really great review team that everyone's mature enough that, you know, they're not going to be swayed
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
reviews, and it's all public anyways. So
Mm. I'm yeah, it's all public. For me, it was really I'm very much agree with that. I think it has more positive effects to publish it. Um, Let me shortly just look through how we have framed it in the specification, so
Mm.
we can maybe check that out how it is here. Let me. You likely will see my screen. Yeah. So guiding principles, application, and approval process. So we have the funding tiers. I'm just looking to where we have said something about this. Scoring process. Diddle, diddle, diddle. This is the how the application is this category, the evaluation. Okay, we have here the grants committee will present all accepted tier 1, 2, 3, 4 in a public meeting. All decisions will be published without naming the individual grant committee members who worked on a proposal to avoid. This is how you implemented this, yeah? So you, I think nobody
yes, yeah,
sees
they
who's working in, yeah, yeah.
correct.
Here is it. Here we have the committee will host a publicly accessible database, Notion, or whatever, where all accepted proposals are listed and all spendings can be tracked. Here we speak from only all accepted proposals. So
Mm.
I think as we see the requirements or the requests from the community, we could um, work along. This is just something I think, like I said, we will see once this whole thing has started, um, what works and what works not. Yeah. If we see such requests and we figure out, okay, in the way we designed the framework, um, this is just a small side note basically. I don't know, we maybe decided it in one meeting with 12 people and set and forget, yeah. But now we got some feedback, and I think there are good reasons to test out how this works when it's public. Everything, like you said, after you have filtered out the spam, um, and if this seems to work well over, I don't know, couple of weeks or whatever, 1, 2, 3 months without problems, then we should change that here in the specification. And this would be basically my proposal to do it. Um, it's likely not going to be only this. There might be other things that you as a committee or also we as a community figure out, would be cooler and better if we do it in the future like that. And so we'll likely collect those things, maybe really test it out over time. If there are some issues coming up, we can always make it not public anymore. Um, and if it seems to work out, let's have a vote in a couple of months from the community where
Hmm.
we present, okay, based on the last couple of months of experience of the requests and comments and blah blah blah, we would suggest following changes to the specification. We'll put it up in the governance forum, run through the community, through the vote stuff, and then would have it updated here in the specifications. Kind of similar like what we have designed for the governance framework also, yeah.
Right.
Does that sound
Cool. I will.
reasonable? Mm,
I think that's good. I mean, we could always change it back if after a couple weeks, for whatever reason, we find
mm,
it's a negative effect. But I think it's definitely reasonable to at least try it out, and like you said, kind of get some
yeah,
actual data to see is it positive or negative,
yeah,
and how the community reacts to it.
yeah. I think, I mean, from my side, I think I also was kind of, my only concern in this time was really the thinking of, okay, what happens if a very popular, or maybe two or three very popular community projects bring in a proposal that might even be a little bit controversial. Maybe they ask for a really high amount. Yeah, what are you doing if there's, don't know, one of our ecosystem projects comes in with a 400K grant proposal. Yeah. Um, of course, there will be a lot of opinions in the community around that. A lot of people that support this project anyway will try to support this proposal, potentially make a little bit of noise in social media around that. Kind of try, I mean, this is an understandable human behavior, trying to influence the grant committee that this is a great thing and they need this money and la. And you potentially would also have some others from, let's say, competitors side that might not react so well on such a proposal and would try the other way and try to influence the grant committee to not give out so much money to this project because reason X epsilon. That's, I think, the only thing that I could see that
Yeah,
would make the
and I
work
think
for the committee difficult, yeah, and cause some
yeah,
issues in the community. Mm.
and I think that really will fall on me, and I have no problem telling people how I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
in a tactful manner. But I think, like you said, like it's worth to try,
yes,
and maybe that theory doesn't even manifest itself.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and if it does, then we can certainly assess it at that time.
Yeah. Maybe it's really just a PTSD thing. Um, if it's not showing up, then it's just really always better to be more transparent. And there have also been some really good arguments in the community. A lot of people said, "Hey, it's great. I mean, even if stuff gets declined, it's always good to see uh, the reason why it was not the reason, but basically you see the proposal and then you see, okay, it's got declined, and then it's kind of easy to reason and figure out why something was declined instead of not knowing something was declined and say, okay, there was a proposal from project XY, but we had to decline it, but we're not going to tell or to show you the proposal. Yeah. So it's basically actually better like this, I think, and also
And
kind of it shows how much work you have to do. Yeah, so even if you have to
yeah,
decline the next 15 proposal, and yet you don't have a single one that you will approve, there wouldn't be anything to talk about in the next 4 or 6 months, because you can't really talk about declined proposals. So it's a good thing to show that you are busy with stuff, even it's just not getting approved, but you still have to work through all those proposals. Yeah.
yeah, and what I've been doing with the like the particularly the declined proposal that we had was gave essentially took the reviewers' comments and put them together into one single summary. So, it doesn't reveal who reviewed it, but gives the suggestion, hey, this is why we're declining this. This is
Yeah.
if you'd like to adjust it or resubmit, this is what we think would make for a better proposal and blah blah blah. So I could certainly include that in that so that the community can learn from it as well.
Yeah. And also, I think, I mean, what I've really seen in general is super much really, really good feedback on the way you guys have been working, on the way you have been communicating, what you have been doing. So I really haven't seen any FUD, any bad comments. some real good comments even for things where you said, okay, you declined this and that because of reason that, and usually mostly the community was kind of happy with it. Yeah, that's a really good sign. Yeah, from everywhere I get a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people also approach me in DMs and ask a lot of questions, and also express their happiness and gratitude in how this whole thing currently runs. And I think that's a great sign that basically in a moment everything runs smooth and fine. Yeah, so a little bit more transparency on the proposals. That's great. Let's try this out. If in the end, really, if as long as you guys are okay with it, and you don't run into issues with that, and you have internal an alignment that you are all happy with the way to do this, let's try this out. And if it works, we'll really should change the specification in this point to put you on a solid ground from the specification side.
Cool. I will add it to the lessons learned.
Mhm.
I'm kind of putting all these little ideas and thoughts that could make better or be revised when we
Yeah,
decide that's a good time to do that. So
yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, what else? From my side, let me think if I have any. I mean, last week I talked a little bit about this whole layer 2 governance thing, basically also about Snapshot. Let's see if we have some new people signed up for Snapshot. The thing with Snapshot is in the moment, I mean, we have it, but it's only kind of it's on the testnet, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do. You can't use it for votes now because basically it's not with real tokens, so I have minted tokens I can distribute. If anybody wants to vote on those things, you can use Shimmer tokens from the faucet. Yeah, so it's not something that has any value in making decisions. To test it out, like I said, if somebody has an interest to test it out closer, I can give you rights here to be an author, so you can create your own proposals and post it and let other people vote on it and to try out those features. Yeah, so no problem with that. Probably once we have something to decide, we can implement some test stuff. Especially then when we get closer to EVM launch, this might be interesting. Otherwise, like this, like I said, I'm currently already working on a concept for making the IOTA treasury accessible. Yeah, so the 50 TI IOTA tokens that have started our whole journey into this whole governance thing. Yeah, so they are on the way to get released once we do the upgrade for the IOTA mainnet. And I'm currently working on the technical side of this. So it's important that those tokens will then be governed by a smart contract that can spend tokens out of this only once there is a community vote and a proposal on that. And I'm writing a concept up for that. And then potentially we're going to start some deployments and implementations on the testnet and then test stuff on the Shimmer EVM. And then we would have also a system that can govern the current tokens that are still part of the community treasury. Yeah, so there's also still, I don't know, 65 million Shimmer tokens currently waiting to be held by a smart contract on Shimmer EVM. Yeah, after this whole thing is audited and everything. But this is something maybe in 2, 3, 4 weeks we get more concrete in starting to build something and test something here. Just to think about for this situation.
Question on
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
Philo.
yeah.
What is the community involvement on that?
The community involvement on that will only be the procedures that we use for decision making and things like this, but not the technical stuff. So the technical stuff is deeply hardcore smart contract things, and will be implemented by the IOTA Foundation smart contract team, because we also feel that we have an obligation to. I mean, we promised to give the community control over these tokens, so we will deliver on that. Yeah. And
Yeah, just
make, yeah.
like just for, let's see, totally random example, right? Just trying to find
Mhm.
something. Like the Shimmer NFT t-shirt thing, like I think I'm not saying that the community should deal with it solely, but I'm just wondering if once it gets a pretty solid foundation, maybe just seeing if the community has any suggestions to add to it that possibly would make it better. Maybe there might be some things that the IF didn't look at that the community governance, might, and if not, great. And I'm not saying in any ways like to take the project management over it by any means. Just like maybe when it's close to done, could it
Nah,
be,
it will.
presented?
Of course, it will already be four, because the whole yeah, I will involve, of course, everyone here in the whole testing phase. But uh, the basic decisions, which technical solution will be built and used. I mean, will very likely use a lot of already existing stuff that is basically the standard that is used in all EVM chains and to secure big treasuries. Yeah, there are only 2 or 3 solutions out there that have been proven, that are bullet tested over many years, that secure currently hundreds of billions of dollars of Web3 treasuries out there. So we'll basically use the same thing, deploy it here, and then it's about implementing our basically the rule set that we have set in the governance framework with quorum and all the things. These are all customizable stuff, and this is of course all stuff that we in the governance group here will decide on how exactly we implement it. Yeah? I would always go for um, feature parity with layer one. Yeah? So the same rules that we have defined now in the governance framework should apply um, also on the EVM. Yeah, that's my goal on that thing. Yeah, likely this will be possible with the system. Maybe there's some modifications, but all this stuff we will talk about. Yeah, but let me first initiate the engineering around that, so that we have an
Mhm.
internal team from engineering aligned that will um, start speccing the solution, and then deploy it on internal testnet, do some stuff. And once we have it deployable on the EVM testnet, we will all be involved here and test it and try it out and be able to suggest edits and all stuff. Yeah, so that's all coming. Yeah, that's not something that will just be
What?
presented and said, okay, here, deal with it and thank you. We'll work on that together.
Um, okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with that. I think that's all from my side. What about the treasury? Do you want to give some updates on how you feel and how you did and what happened over the last week?
Sure. Yeah, we are 2 weeks in. Um, there was, a few things that came up in the process flow, mainly around milestones, and the web form wasn't catching them, but I fixed that, so that was great. Um, we are currently, let me just pull up the website. I just updated the tracker today. So we have received 9 submissions. We have approved 4. We decided not to award one. Um, we are, Rob, we are looking at three are looking good. If you go down there, there should be like a treasury counter to the bottom of the main
Ah,
page. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go. Down,
yeah,
down, down. There you go.
yeah,
And so and we've got, initial 1.8 for the year. Um and yeah, so that's good. We're having really good proposals. All of them are just really, really great. We haven't gotten any spam, which is really interesting, which is great, making our jobs easy. The reviewers are just doing excellent. I think the server's going really well. It's a pretty good, efficient process. I think things that have come up are, I think I find we ask for a lot more detailed information, um, and I think that's part of we kind of built this sort of process that
yeah,
wanted to be efficient and speedy, um, and it definitely is, but we can certainly go through a lot of grants pretty quick. And I think maybe it might, like, I'm even thinking of taking like the last week of every month and almost just not review grants. So it gives, the
mhm,
team to kind of focus on the processes, gives me time to focus on, keeping all the administration up, maybe doing like a
yeah,
monthly report type deal.
yeah,
Um, but so going smooth, just looking at how the process is. I think that we're going through a little bit quick, looking at like budget. Um, we're kind of we've got maybe one, two tier threes in the pipeline, and we have like we're maybe one tier two that will be approved, and then another one under review.
yeah,
So I'm looking at to try to really focus on the first 6 months that, hey, we want to approve a decent amount of tier ones, tier twos, and then maybe one or two tier three. And then as best possible to spread that out over 6 months. But then brings up a question of which I'd be interested to hear the group's thinking. So there's two ways we could approach it. Well, three ways actually. We could just, as a proposal comes in, if it's good, we fund it. And hey, we might have tapped all the 6 months resources. Um, the risk is then we've converted SMR to the USD price at that time. And then there won't be really any activity going on after that. Um, Another aspect is we could say, hey, we've kind of reached as many grants we want to approve for this month. We're going to basically allow grants to be accepted. We're just not going to review them till May, let's say. Um, and then that's going to bring up something. And that, in one sense, could be good because then all of a sudden we could look at, yes, we've got 12 grants that are all should be approved, but which are the best ones we should approve, right?
mhm,
Um, we might approve 20 grants in the next week, tap out the 6 months funding, and we might be missing a better grant that could be coming in next month. So there's that aspect. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, so a little bit think about. I'm going to do a private meeting tomorrow with the committee members just to go over how everyone's feeling with the process. Going to certainly discuss that. Um, I think we want to look at how we can break down the categories. I mean, we've got like 20 categories, but maybe focus on, okay, so there's content, there's
mm,
developer support, there's projects that can be launching, etc.
yeah,
And I'd like to try to see us break down the overall funding to um, have a category that we can then say, hey guys, we're short on the available funding for, let's just say, developer implementation and support. So, what we're looking for is this, whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, see, like under that grant
Yeah,
category. So I'd
yeah,
like to kind of break that down into 4 or 5
yeah,
categories and talk about that with the guys tomorrow.
yeah. This was
Um,
also a feedback that I got from, I think, one or two. Basically, they applied, or I don't know if they already have, or they want to apply for a small grant. Basically, I think something like $1,000 to $2,000.
mhm,
They said basically it's a great process, but it's a lot of questions and a lot of stuff in this form, which is maybe a little bit over the top, like this whole milestone budget breakdown and things. If you just have a small thing for $4,000, it
mhm,
they found it a bit extensive, and so
mhm,
the question was, okay, isn't it? Could it be possible basically to um, easify this thing. So basically, to say, okay, let them make a selection on which tier they request in the beginning,
mhm,
and then if you ask for a tier one, then basically strip down the process, make it a little bit
mhm,
lighter, and don't ask for too many things that might not be needed for a tier one proposal.
mhm,
If this and I thought it might be that some things could be lowered down, like I said, that the budget breakdown and the milestone things, it's anyway
mhm.
not required for tier one, I think. So you could leave it out of the form. That
Right.
might make it easier for them or avoid some confusion because they want me to do a budget breakdown or a milestone definition, but it's just like a one thing, and that's how it what it so that's the feedback that I got from I think from two people. um
Mhm.
Maybe this is
I
something
mean,
you can discuss with the reviewers to make it a little bit easier. Yeah,
yeah, and so we could do that. I can definitely look into that. That will not that's not this web form allows for like conditional
yeah,
um conditions. So like if
yeah,
you say tier one, it's going to show the tier one questions and tier two, three, and four, two, three, and four questions.
yeah.
Um and I think also it might just be a little bit of like confusion and maybe like because if you look at milestones, where it asks for how many milestones, it does say for tier one proposals, milestones are not required. Simply write, or I should say select, not
Yeah,
required.
yeah,
And then, I mean, like
yeah.
grant
people are
description
peop-
too long to
People
read.
have already stopped reading here, I think.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, and it's a tough one. I mean, I think, yeah, I think, again, it's like we just don't have a lot of money. Like I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
if we get 10 tier ones and they're great tier ones, then we're out, So, but I think, really, sure, it takes maybe 5 minutes to actually read through it, but they
yeah.
don't have to. I mean, they only have to put one sentence on the let's see here, like
Mm.
grant project description. You only have to put 2 sentences. You don't have to write a story.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, I think even for a $1,000 grant, we
Absolutely,
still want to
absolutely.
know
You want to
how's it.
know shit. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, but like about the team, right? Like
Mm. And this
$1,200 grant's not
the
going to have a
the
massive team. So you just say, this is who I am,
yeah,
and this is why I'm capable of doing
yeah.
this,
And
type
the
deal.
funding request and budget breakdown, does this need to be a file? So if somebody says,
No, so
okay, it's just like it will be 10 hours of work and it will cost you $1,000. Uh, does it
right,
need to be an
like
Excel file or yeah,
I mean, really, we've gotten Excel files, we've gotten PDFs,
yeah,
and really, it probably just needs to be one attachment location where it's like you just attach what you want to see,
yeah, mm,
what you want us to see.
yeah,
Um, we've had some, I mean, really good, and that's, I can't wait. I hope, that I think
mm,
they are going to get approved, and I'd like to kind of show them as an example of, we're talking about a bigger,
yeah,
like an $18,000 grant or
yeah,
whatever it was. Um, very clear on the budget breakdown. Like,
Yeah.
this is what my deliverable is, this is what I'm using, this is the money, this is the time. That makes it super easy for the committee rather than,
Yes.
sometimes it's like, hey, I want $10,000. This is the end result, but we don't know how they're going to get there,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's not going
So,
to work. No, they have to put
so, so,
some work into that. Yeah.
so I'll probably take that out. And then the other thing is I will not. So I think no, these attachments will not be shown. Okay, yeah. I'm probably just not going to show any attachments to the community. One for the
Mm.
virus malware
Yeah.
protection for the
Yeah.
community, and as well as even if I did say, hey, this is going to be public to the community, someone might make a mistake and put in a sensitive information.
Yeah.
So, so that will just be for us, but I will change that, and that's more for the bigger projects. I mean,
Mm.
really, someone could just say, uh, they could put it in their project goals or whatever.
Yeah.
But it is. I don't. I totally know that this is probably more information, though. I wonder, and I don't know if anyone's directly talks to other treasuries because I've looked at quite a few grant programs that don't require a lot of information. But then I wonder, when they accept someone, do they then send out a follow up direct to them and say, "Hey, now we want to know all the details of your project," right?
No, JD, forget it. They don't do this.
Well,
They just
I
fund.
just
You have a cool PFP. Here's 20K. This is how
and
stuff
honestly, I
goes.
have
Yeah.
I have heard this from several people that they're
Yeah.
like, this is so much more than any other treasury. And I said, well, how are the other treasuries? And they go, they're literally looking for people to give money to.
Yeah.
They just want to
Yeah.
give it out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, we don't have $200 million to do
No.
that, unfortunately. We've got, other treasuries got 50, 70 million to spend in a year. We literally have, I think after running costs, we have like 1.4. I'd have to look at my Excel sheet, but we got 1.4 for the year. And
At
hopefully,
at current prices, so.
current price. Yes, correct. And I think that's what the community should understand is, look, if the SMR price goes up to 20, and let's hope it does, 20 cents, and the treasury then would be somewhere in the 5 million range. Well, now we can get a little bit more flexible, and
Yeah.
and we don't have to worry about as much. I just really don't want to deplete it
No.
really quick personally.
No.
And I've heard that from a lot of community members as well. So,
No.
but yeah,
Yeah, cool. No,
yep.
that's I think that's really everything runs really smooth. I mean, this is normal feedback. You have now
Mhm.
9 incoming, so I think that's it takes actually I'm also a bit surprised because I had quite more requests before this whole thing where everyone was like, when can we submit a proposal? Potentially they're currently busy with building and deploying and testing on the EVM or whatever, and it will come a little bit later, or they're kind of, I don't know, waiting or something. Um, and maybe they're also a little bit waiting. They want to see basically, okay, how do others do? Yeah, and that's also maybe
Mhm.
where this question's coming from. Yeah, what very interested to see. Okay, this is a proposal that was declined. They can read through it, can see. Okay,
Mhm.
they can compare it to the specification. Say, okay, yeah, okay. I also would have declined it because it was missing this and that and this and that, or it was like too high or something. And so I think some are really currently in a scouting position to get a little bit of feeling of also how the committee um, acts and reacts on things. So they might then look for ways to modify their proposal to make it more fitting to the thing, which is a good thing because yeah,
Mhm.
this will
Mhm.
will also not be then so much strange work for you to do if people realize, okay, this is the way this whole thing runs. Let's adjust
Mhm.
our proposal. Maybe also let's adjust our request to a tier that seems to be doable. And that's actually a good process. Yeah, I think
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
let's give it 4 6 weeks, then things will start to tumble in. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and I do think a few there's going to be quite a couple that get approved. And that was to, because projects take time, so I
Mm.
would like to see some projects um, really get going and show their deliverables by kind of end of May to June, July, which who knows? Hopefully, EVM would be, maybe, you know, going on main at that time, and that will give us time to also see how are those deliverables coming, et cetera, and give us a little bit time to adjust before, I would assume once EVM gets to mainnet, there'll be more projects coming and then more requests from the treasury. So hopefully we'll get things nice and smooth before then. Um, and then yeah, some other things that were coming up was still looking at thinking about how to really assess performance, um, such as, uh, when a content creator submits a proposal and they're saying, hey, these are what I want to do, like, again, the whole point of our treasury, our essentially our vision or our mission statement is to expand the ecosystem. So it's great that someone says, I want to do this, it's going to expand the ecosystem. But then how do we judge that that
Yeah.
was a success or not? That it actually did expand the ecosystem
I
or
mean,
support the
yeah.
ecosystem.
This would be basically measure afterwards. I think it's also the very difficult point is how do you assess if whatever those person or this group or this project has planned, and they think it, of course they are very convinced that this will be a super great thing for the ecosystem, but you have to make up your own mind, and this is really, I think you guys should literally spend some of your time in doing some real deeper research in how other ecosystems have performed or also applications in other ecosystems have performed in the past, especially those that have been funded with from treasuries and grants. I would sometimes really go like I had. This is why I linked this stuff from Polkadot Treasury and also from other. You can look at Uniswap and all the big MakerDAO, Aave. Um, what did they fund? Look through the projects. What in the end did it actually work out? Are these projects still alive? Did they, and if they're still alive, did they really bring a measurable boost for the project? Yeah. Did anything that
Mhm.
was funded from those treasury really increase the growth, increase the TVL, brought more users, brought more attention to the things, and maybe really figure out, okay, there might be some continuing patterns that might help you to figure out if a proposal is just like hot air, sounds great, but likely will not, because the same thing they have tried it in seven other chains, not the same thing, but the same
Mhm.
concept, and it has
Mhm.
never worked out there. It has never really kicked off anything substantiable. And others you might see where they think, okay, it was just a small grant, but this thing really went through the roof because certain conditions have been met. Bang, bang, bang. Look, that's really some measurable growth and some measurable um, increase of whatever metric that has been coming from this. I think actually you have the team is quite good. You have also, I mean, with Richard, who knows a lot of ecosystems out there and has some good insights. I think it would be useful maybe to spend a day or two, like you said, when you have towards end of the month and you want to not review a proposal, maybe sit all together in the committee and look through other ecosystems and funded projects and find out those key matrix. If you are able to see the proposals that they submitted, might be a good way to see some hints that can help you in the future to really identify Yeah, that's stuff that has worked in Solana, it has worked on Near, it was always an amazing application that went through the roof and brought a lot of users. That's stuff that if you get such a proposal in, yeah, that's really worth spending some money on it from the community because it's like, I mean, you never know if history will always repeat the same way here, but the chances are there because this concept and this way of doing stuff has worked already before in other projects. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That's some
Yeah.
study treasury study group or something like this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it's like, I mean, we were doing the weekly public meetings and it was very more proposal centric, and that's like kind of said, hey, let's meet this Friday, just private, just to discuss. And, on the agenda is like, how are we going with the review process? How exactly are people grading, reviewing, and managing the SMR payouts, and then continue performance assessments, particularly in contact, which is exactly that.
yeah,
And, then I brought up the 1 week deal, and I like the idea of, having us as a committee focus on how can we better this process? How can we learn from other treasuries
yeah.
rather than repeating the same mistakes for sure?
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean,
so yeah.
that's what I did. I looked through a lot of those things, and I mean, also in this idea of how to structure the processes. Yeah, going with this idea of having really a dedicated small group of people instead letting all the community decide everything. Every 5,000 grand has to be discussed for 3 weeks, blah blah blah, and then nobody votes in the end for nothing. It's like all, if you look through these successful treasuries like Aave, Uniswap, MakerDAO, um, you will find really good working solutions and also really thing you say, okay, that it was just super worth spending that, even if it was a big spend and they spent 150K on something, but this whole thing has blown through the roof. It brought a lot of new users. It has become one of the big players in this whole ecosystem, and it started as a small shit team like all the others, and they had a good idea and they submitted a cool proposal. They got some funding, and they so I think this would be great to identify some such projects because we will have such pearls coming in. We have them in our ecosystem. We have them waiting or quietly building there, and with a little bit of support, I think some of them can really lift off. And yeah, that would be super cool to identify such possibilities for spending community money the best way. Yeah.
hmm Um, yeah. And then another thing that came up was, I think it was a suggestion. One of the reviewers, I can't remember who, but was like maybe almost to an extent, like creating a like a rate table, and again, that's something that's almost hard to judge. Again, you know, and someone submits and they say, "Hey, I want $50,000,"
Mhm.
and even if they do put that, "Hey, we're using these type of developers and whatnot," is not only is that a standard rate for
Mhm.
that position, but also is that the amount of hours it should or shouldn't take.
Yeah.
So it's just one, I don't, again, like you said, that's good to check other treasuries and probably get a good pulse on that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that will just come over time as we do more research and we get more
Mhm.
experience. And but I'm starting to network more with people, and like not necessarily for the rate, but I reached out to Dr. Electron. He's always happy to help, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I think getting that network to just like, hey, just want to double check, does this look legitimate?
Mhm.
Um, and I think too, there was a possible, something we're going to discuss tomorrow. Like, would it be worth putting out like kind of, hey, this is generally what we have for average industry rates. These are kind of where um, at least they should come in along,
Yeah.
which really someone could just add hours if they wanted to, but that then comes you know, who can we go to that can be just a quick and easy, oh yeah, that looks about right, or that's
Does
way
it?
over, you know.
Yeah, do it. I would really suggest also look through those treasuries. Look through Polkadot, Aave, MakerDAO, because basically they have funded or they have got proposals and funded proposals for nearly everything that you can imagine in a DLT project. And usually they have that stuff comes from quite experienced teams. There you will also find that there are teams that have basically built and submitted the same solutions in many different networks, and so they have kind of a there's some very good and detailed project plans with hours and stuff, and so you if you look through that you will get a feeling of, okay, building blah blah solution X is basically always in the range of that's always going to be 25K and will be, I don't know, 2 devs for 6 weeks, blah 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 blah. Um, I think there's a lot of information out there. It will just take some time to scout through those things. Um, and like I said, building a database of that stuff, why can't ChatGPT do that for us? Yeah, basically tell ChatGPT, okay, analyze all spendings of Treasury X, Y, and Z, and give us a range for applications and what the cost and what the working. Yeah, well, AI
Yep.
should be
Yep.
able to do that one day.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't say to analyze the grants, but I did ask a few like, hey, here's a project and wants to use these services with these workers and to produce this, what's the average cost in this country? And it spit it out. And it is pretty wild how good it is,
Ah, you know
and
what
gave
I
a range.
what I just remember? I still have to forward you the list of technical consultants that have applied.
Mm-hmm.
That I
Please,
think,
please do.
yeah, I think there have been 3 or 4. Also, you will also see there's very interesting big ranges in the hourly rate
Great.
they asked.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was very surprised to see 1 or 2. I think like, what? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'll send that over later. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me look at so if you go on to the top under public administration, is it under, oh, do I have it under there? Let's see. Let me take a look if it's there or not. Uh, I don't have it. Okay, I don't have that one shown. I probably should put that there, but it's hours for the committee. Let's say minutes for the committee, which
Yeah.
is specifically to um, meetings or reviews,
Mhm.
but it doesn't specifically say which proposal. But anyway, so basically each committee member has 600 minutes per week allotted per the framework.
Yeah.
And I mean, week 14, which was last week, we had 315, 140 minutes, 325, 395. So we're definitely coming under that. So I think like budget wise, even if we did use a technical consultant for 1 or 2, for 1 hour, 2 hours, we're actually not even going above
Mhm.
the allotted max hourly cost for
Yeah.
reviewers or
Ha,
assistants. You know what I'm saying? Like we're
depends
not going over what
depends
we estimated that week.
depends of the rate of the technical
Oh
consultant.
yeah.
They don't come as cheap as grant reviewers, you know.
No, no, I understand, but
Yeah.
I can easily assess this and go, okay,
Yes.
so we have whatever,
Yeah.
10 hours by 4, so 50, so what's that, $2,000 a week. And if we use 1,200 for the reviewers, and maybe I could use 200 or 300 and still come under, keep the cost low for the
Mm.
year type deal. But again, like think of how much we would save. Let's say I pass it past a reviewer, and I'm not gonna lie, like I think as a treasury, as probably the lowest value treasury in the crypto space.
Ah,
Unfortunately,
no.
you think?
there are a lot of small projects, and they run with like 500K and stuff like this.
Okay.
It's
Well,
yeah, but then they only mostly they do just like a couple of hackathons and community things and
sure.
stuff. I mean, you have
I mean,
to handle what you have. Yeah, yeah,
I just don't think we can really hire the top tier, devs and
no,
consultants and whatnot. But
yeah,
but anyways, what I'm saying is if we pass it through a technical consultant and they say, look, I mean, honestly, this is a great project and it's a great team, but I kind of think they're 20% over what it should really cost. And if we bring that back to the grant submitter, and maybe they wanted $70,000, and
mhm,
and we say, look, we want to support this, but we kind of think it's more in the range of 55,000, and they
yeah,
say okay, and they deliver.
absolutely.
We've really just saved $15,000, which is a lot of
Yeah,
technical consultant
yeah,
advisory time,
yeah.
in the end.
And I mean,
So
you have Umair. I think Umair would be a cool resource because I mean, he's like a dev since 25 years,
mm,
um, and this might be also sometimes, yeah. I mean, you have quality
that's a
stuff in the committee. Maybe involve
yes,
them from time to
yes,
time. Yeah,
that is a good idea. I didn't even think of that as
yeah.
the more of a technical consultant support. Yeah, I'm gonna do that actually.
Mhm.
And even I'll have to spend some time talking to Ox what's it?
Marcus,
Who is it?
yes. Hey, oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Marcus, he's running a software development company since many
Well,
years.
I
So
was looking at his
yeah.
I was looking at his profile and it was like 20-year project management and tech development, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really the guy I personally
Yeah.
want to know because he probably knows all this stuff. So
Yes,
yeah, I'll
yeah,
reach
yeah.
out to him
That's the good
and
thing. You there, like I said, the resources are there, yeah. And so
yeah.
anyway, I think with sometimes we'll have some conflict of interest stuff. You have to anyway rotate some of them in, and
Mhm,
yeah, sometimes just
mhm,
use them. They apply. I'm sure Marcos will be happy to help. Uma the same. Yeah,
mhm, mhm.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So other than that, the latest news was we chose to use Audit One as our KYC service provider. Um, Again, that was sort of what I was doing some polls with the community of, do we want to use Web3 at a not extraordinary cost, but if it's a
Mhm.
little higher cost, but we support Web3. Had an interview with them and another Web3 provider, and then got a rate on a Web2. Um, they definitely were, the one Web3 provider almost didn't even want to waste their time with us because we're such a small treasury.
Yeah.
Audit One was definitely not only willing to talk, but very just they seem like a great team. And I talked about how what I want to do is where we will capture all their data.
Mhm.
So we'll capture their name, their address, all that stuff. That, however, will on the on-chain will just show that they've passed, let's say.
Yeah.
That data will be held by Audit One, and really we won't have access. And I said, can we come up in some process where, like, let's say the co-lead and another reviewer, or the program lead and another reviewer, he goes, we could do it as a multi-sig. And also it would probably, we can put a condition like only in a legal environment, like let's say the authorities said, hey, you guys gave this person money to do an
Mhm.
NFT platform and they did something illegal. We need to get their information. Of course,
Yeah.
we're going to, in that sense, we'll sign the multi-sig, and then Audit One releases that information to the authority. But the committee themselves doesn't have
Yeah.
access to
Yeah.
this information. So that was really cool. They express that, they are I think in the same vision as all of us, that they are progressing more and more into Web3, and that's their
Mhm.
long-term vision, which is great. So yeah, so I then, and as we talked about, how do we make these decisions that really choose a service provider, and like we talked about, what is in the operating agreement, we call them day-to-day decisions for the
Decisions.
DAO.
Yes. Yeah.
So, so I gathered the information and then gave the information to the committee. and then we did a vote through Sesh in in our server,
Yeah.
which I'm going to create a web page to track and publicize this and show the votes. So it was unanimous, and as we have in the operating agreement, those decisions have to have majority by the committee. So it's not like a program lead can just hire some service provider or the co-lead. It has to be a committee decision all in one.
Yeah.
So that worked out really, really well. And looking forward to work with them. And in transparency, everyone will see it soon. They did submit a proposal as well, though I made sure that we had our discussion about using them first. And then once that was all decided, then we talked about their proposal.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
So that's exciting, and I think that's about all I got. I don't know, Linus, if you got anything, if you feel like I missed anything.
No, this was extensive. This was other news, I think.
Okay.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
I think we're all enjoying it, and it's pretty exciting, and I do think we need to slow down a little bit though, and kind of focus on the process a little bit, and like you said, do some research and then refine it a little bit. So
Yeah. I think that
we'll
will
probably do
that
that.
will help. Yeah, really, that will
Yeah.
help. Yeah, that's just, I think, gain some experience. Look
Mm-hmm.
through what others have done, what has worked and what has. I mean, we saw these Twitter threads also coming up about Kusama and this shit. This is even. I mean, it's sad to see. It's a bit of funny when I think, oh my god, how could they? But it's very important learnings. Yeah, how,
Yeah.
especially if you have a big treasury and you have a successful project and you're kind of, everybody wants to jump on the next hype, and you see they funded a lot of metaverse crap and which has nobody ever used and things like this. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure we are far ahead of making such stupid decisions, but still, there's learnings in all those failures. But there's also a lot of learnings outside there in the successful projects and the successful treasuries, what they are
Mm-hmm.
doing. I think if we can copy a couple of their success stories, would be a big thing for Shimmer and for IOTA. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
For sure.
anyone from the audience has some questions on JD or me or Linus or anyone here, or has some suggestions or a topic to talk about? Sounds not like this. Then let's fade out this whole thing with a couple of emojis, and we
I mean,
will.
one thing we could talk about is the proposal that DC made for his expense.
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
did
that's
we already do it? We just thought out.
true. I did forget to put that. I think it's talking about the proposal that I put in for the website, which I kind of went transparent everywhere I possibly could because I don't want anything to be hidden. Werner made a suggestion that, so what the proposal was basically split in somewhat two of the time it took for me to build the website and the database and everything, and then the expenses incurred. And the expenses incurred were, I tested Notion, I tested Jotforms to kind of see what worked.
Mhm.
And then when deciding with Airtables and Softer, of course, I've been paying for that since January, basically, to build all this. So Werner suggested kind of two things. One, the testing stuff, maybe just take that out, and then whatever's used, just submit an invoice directly to the treasury. So the grant request is specifically for the time incurred. So I did do that. I took that out. That dropped it from 10,000 something to 9,100. And that's currently being reviewed, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything. Successfully, at least on the website and the database. It's been going pretty smooth. Worked on a few quirks that came up, which is natural. Most grant submitters are enjoying it. I even set up an automation to where because when someone gets approved, I log their information. They get a login to the website, which they'll have a separate administration tab that they can submit milestone payment requests. And I was able to set it up with Audit One, where once they're ready to be KYC'd, I hit a checkbox and it sends Audit One an automatic email that shows from the database their name, the project, and their email. So then Audit One automatically sends them the KYC information. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing is, with this system, I'm teaching Linus. So basically, once a week, we're going to spend an hour, and I'm going to teach them everything about it. So let's just say I got hit by a car, or I left, or whatever. It's not like he would step in, or another program lead would step in and have no idea, and then have to hire a consultant for $5,000. Basically, Linus being the co-lead, he would either train the program lead or he would handle the transitionary time, let's say, for that. So, because there was a few people that were like, well, what happens if you leave? You have this complex system that no one knows how to deal with. But the other idea, too, that I've thought of, I mean, this is basically any corporation, business, organization, is you basically have to have a operations manual. So I think probably once we get through all that and it gets smooth, that I'll create basically an operations manual for it, start to finish. So someone can just look through that as in how the process works.
Yep.
So yeah, anyone have any questions on that? Okay, I do see a question up here. What happens in case of breach of contracts legally? Are projects hired for a project as freelancers and companies? Will the Treasury ever consider to go the legal route to recover funds for promised obligations not fulfilled? Okay, a few things here. One, we aren't currently set up to have a legal binding contractual agreement. So it's not like we're saying, hey, we're giving you this. We're not saying we're giving you this money for this deliverable. We're saying, essentially, we're supporting you by giving you this money. If you complete the deliverable, great. If you don't, well, so be it. But what we are talking about, and I think it's the first step, I think maybe eventually we get there. Maybe eventually we get to a point where we actually do go into a legal contract with a grant receiver and potentially could, who knows? I mean, this is just way down the road, could have equity or whatever. But currently, I think the first step is that I've talked with Paulo, our lawyer, is at least some type of disclaimer. Like when you purchase something online and you don't really read the disclaimer, but you click it anyways or you sign it. What I'm more concerned right now is that there's something that legally says we are giving you this money for this purpose, so that if that person goes and does something illegal with it, that can't come back to us. If they go and do some thing that, let's say, goes against the SEC or goes against the European, whatever that would be, financial regulatory aspect, they can't come to us and say, well, you guys were part of this. It's like, well, wait a second. We gave this money for this nonprofit purpose. And it would be nice to have one simple disclaimer. I think that's a good start.
Yeah.
And then as we go from there and as we get going down the road, then I think we can explore those options. But currently, and like Philo said, that can just get really costly, especially when you're in the Marshall Islands, to flying a lawyer over there or getting a local lawyer. So again, I mean, if we find a good process and that isn't costly, and something down the road, but currently it's just saying, hey, we're giving you this money. hopefully you deliver. And I think really this whole thing is based more about around a reputation system. You know, it's community members are going to gain reputation or hurt their own reputation, you know, depending how they do. I thought money was given in phases upon delivering milestones and not. Yes, absolutely, 100%. Again, that's not a legal requirement, but we do set it up such as each tier has a minimum requirement of milestones, and this is basically a risk mitigation. So if someone is, let's just say, incapable of delivering, it mitigates that risk because we'll find that out earlier, and then we'll lose only a portion of the grant provided. Or if someone scams the treasury, we'll lose less. Personally, even I've told a few grant submitters, like, let's just break this up into 2 proposals. I'm kind of, you know, I'll be honest, I'm kind of more focusing on a per quarter basis. If someone's like, you know, hey, I need funding to do this once a month for 6 months or 1 year. And I say, you know, like, what if we just shoot for 1 quarter and go from there because we're new and it gives us an idea to see how you deliver and et cetera. And, you know, there's no cap on how many times someone could submit. If they submit and they deliver and the deliverable is quality, submit again. We'll probably approve you again. You know, again, if that grant submitter is delivering what they say and it's supporting the ecosystem growth, that's the vision of the treasury. We want to do that and we'll do that again. And then maybe we would give a little bit more, right? Again, I think it's reputation. They build some reputation to see if they deliver and just refund them. What do you mean by refund? To see if they deliver and
fund again, I think he means. Yeah.
Oh, just fund them. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And it's again, you know, I mean, some of these projects, these individuals need startup costs. I mean, they just don't have enough in their pocket. So that's the discussions I have with them. Process wise, like, they submit, I vet. I don't want to make too much judgment on it. I'd rather have the reviewers do that, and I'm letting that they come up. Hey, what about this? What about that? Is they're better than me. And then I go back to the grant submitter to get those questions answered for the reviewers. And part of that more I'm looking at is the funding and the budget. So I discuss, you know, just for that aspect, hey, can we lower that milestone in the beginning? Let's push this milestone back, etc. How many technical reviewers do we have? We have 4 active reviewers that are working. And then we have, I think it's 6 backups currently, 1 backed out. Yeah, we have 6 backups, and you can see our committee reviewers at the link I'm posting in the chat. So yeah, and currently I'm trying to, and I'm telling reviewers, originally I was wanting, let's say we approve a $70,000 project, right? And it has 5 milestones. There's a risk if we don't change SMR to USD that if the market dropped by 50%, we would actually not even have the funding for the last milestones, right? Because they're based on USD and we're holding SMR. So originally my idea was to always, whatever project we approve, we at that time or thereabouts, you know, not going to affect the market, but change SMR to USD, and then that's earmarked, that's held aside. So, and that's something I'm looking at. I've got the SMR, I've got the USD balance. I need to capture USD on hand, but can't be used. It's earmarked for projects. Saying that, because everything's starting out, there's a few projects that are bigger projects that I've stated, you know, hey, just want to let you know, I'm probably out of your 4 milestones. We're probably going to look at earmarking the first 2 milestones and holding the other 2 milestones off till a little later in the year. Just again, we're new. We just want to make sure the processes are flowing good and everything's okay. Just being transparent. But I think the eventually we get to the point where we can feel comfortable about, okay, if we approve $100,000 project that has 7 milestones, we change SMR to $100,000. We don't affect market price. And then that $100,000 is earmarked just for that project. And they don't have to worry about not having the funding through their milestones for however long that project is scheduled for. So a bit going on, but we're getting it. Again, I think the next 2 weeks will be slowing down on the reviewing side and taking all this that we've this thought process that's been generated from actually operating and kind of tweaking things a little bit. And it'll really be good to get this done before EVM comes. And I don't know, Bitcoin's at 30,000. If we go into a bull, I'd rather get this admin
Yes.
process stuff done before it starts to go crazy. So,
Yep.
if all of a sudden the treasury did a 6x, everyone would be throwing grants at us.
Yeah, and it's in the moment it's good. Yeah, if there's not much coming in, very nice, very good. Likely that's going to be a good save for a little bit later stage, and then they can come, and then you're also in the flow. Your processes are much more modified and much more nailed and hardened, and then you can also then just request 25 grants per week, because then you're all in the flow and you have your stuff running, and that's going to just work out. Yeah, that's actually a good start like that.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Very, very well. Amazing, my friends. I think this was a really nice meeting. There's maybe one more question coming in from private. Let's type it.
We're hitting an hour and a half. Thanks for all the answers. Gotta go.
Yeah,
You're
same
welcome.
for me. I'm also submerging myself into my bed. Thanks everyone for joining our little weekly meeting here. Great to hear so much good news, so much nice progress. Very happy with what we have achieved. Like I said, more stuff to come. We'll see you again next week on Thursday. Also, I think Treasury, you have a poll out for potential doing an AMA or something.
Yeah. It sounded like some individuals reached out to Linus to do an AMA. I think you're gonna maybe do that in Telegram. Is that right, Linus, in the German community?
Yes, exactly. A German community reached out to me for maybe every 2 months or so, a AMA, just giving an overview of what's going on in the treasury, what's the projects got approved, what's the budget currently in the treasury, just stuff like this, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. But we wanted to also have this for the English-speaking community too, right?
Yeah. Then I think people kind of asked about that too, and so I think we did a couple polls trying to get a pulse. I think maybe for the first 2-3 months we'll do an AMA once a month and see how things after that go. I think most of the questions are going to be around basically submitting proposals and whatnot, and I think it'll be good for us, like you said, to hear some of those comments. If people really do want a more streamlined tier one, I can certainly block off some time for that somewhere, and it'll give us the opportunity to hear from them and the community to hear from us. So it looks like Friday is the day that people like. I chose this same exact time, seems to work pretty good, European, Asia, and US. So I think those polls are pretty much done. So I'll probably schedule for the 28th of April on that, unless people think I should do it sooner. I don't know. Anyone can DM me after this,
gather some experience. I also think end of the month. That's already still quite soon. You're just operating then for like 4 weeks, but it's of course it's good. People will have a lot of questions, and that's cool. They can submit, and then they get direct insights. That's a good thing.
Right. And just a shout out, like if anyone has any questions after this meeting or anytime, you can always DM me. You could always DM Linus or Philo. We're always open.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Have a nice one. Have a good one. Enjoy your evening or your morning or your day, and see you next week. Yeah. And again,
All right.
I'll upload this video in a couple of hours. Will be online to YouTube, so can rewatch if you like. Okay, my friends. Bye bye. Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.